How's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm pretty good. Good. Just dealing with a few cases of strep throat in the family, so we're
Oh,
working through all that, but we're good.
yeah, that's unfortunate. Sorry to hear
Yeah.
that.
Oh, thanks. It's all good. It goes around. But I appreciate you doing this. I'm a huge
No
fan of
problem.
yours, yeah, and
Thank you.
yeah, I'm excited to dive into everything with you.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
I kind of start from the beginning and then just kind of see where it takes us. So
Okay.
I'd love to hear like where'd you grow up? What was childhood like for you?
Mhm.
What was your good and bad? I'll let you figure out where you want to go with it.
Okay. Well, let's start with the basics. I say
Yeah.
I was born and raised in Syracuse, New York. South side of Syracuse, New York, to be more specific. Uh, yeah, my mom and dad were never married, but my dad was always in my life. So I have a great dad. And, I have two brothers, two sisters. They were all half brother and sister. I have brother and sister on my mom's side, brother and sister on my dad's side. Yeah, I was, I guess, halfway into trouble and halfway not. Like I had like I guess this balance I like to call it, where I knew all the gangbangers. I knew everybody was getting in trouble. I got in trouble, but also I hung out with guys that played sports and did a lot of that stuff. Like my brother was in a gang and he spent a lot of time in prison. Yeah, like almost half his life, I would
Wow.
say, and he's been out. And just got into some trouble. He got out of that, but he's been out for about 4 years, maybe something like that.
Wow.
But just had a situation not too long ago where yeah, he had a manslaughter charge,
Oh man.
and yeah, and it wound up self defense. So he got off, but it's a crazy situation where he the person that died is his son's uncle.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So, you know, to make matters, a death and
Yeah.
someone dying and, self-defense, whatever it may be, to have that from me, from my point of view, amplifies, the severity of the already tragic
Right.
situation.
Yeah.
And you know, to live with that and your son and the drama and the trauma of it all,
Man.
I wouldn't wish that on anyone, and I hate that it happened, to this I didn't even know the guy, but the man's family and him, and and it affects ultimately everyone in our family as
Yeah.
well. But nevertheless, I'm happy. If there is a happy ending, I'm happy my brother isn't in jail again. And whatever
Right.
happened, I hope that the bridges can be mended and crossed, and hopefully hearts can be healed. But yeah, that's going back to me like the beginning of me. It's like I knew that. Living in Syracuse and living the life that I was living at that time, being half in and half out of things, and seeing a lot of my friends go to prison, seeing relatives go to jail, and friends. I mean, spending a long time in prison, even at a young age, in and out of juvenile and all that good stuff. I knew that I had to leave Syracuse in order to fulfill my, the dreams
Mhm.
I have in my head and fulfill, my destiny, so to speak. So I dropped out of high school and I went to college. I went to Mohawk Valley Community College, which is in Utica, New York, about 35 minutes, 40 minutes away from Syracuse, going east, I believe. Yeah, east, southeast, something like that. And I did that for a year, and then I transferred to Morrisville College. Morrisville is a university now. I forget what it is now, but they went 4 year. It was a 2 year I was there and got my associates from there. And there at Morrisville is where I really started to like, excel. Like Mohawk Valley, it was like, okay, cool. This is college. I'm doing what I want.
Right.
And it was great the first semester, but then I just fell right back into the BS. And then it was in Morrisville, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. I got this. I felt it was just different and better. It felt more grown up there. And I became the president of the Black Student Union. I got really involved with student affairs and all that kind of stuff. And I got my associates, and I was like, okay, cool. Let's see what else I can do. So I went to Stony Brook out in Long Island because I always wanted to be close to New York, which I didn't realize that Stony Brook is about 2.5 hours away. But nevertheless, for me, it was amazing because I was still able to turn on the TV and look at New York City news. I was able to turn on the radio and listen to Hot 97 and WBLS. So, and then all my friends that I surrounded myself with in school were all from New York or from Long Island. So for me, it was like, yes, this is dope. This is exactly what I needed, what I wanted to do. So I still continued to excel, became the president of the student activities and all that good stuff. But I still didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I had no clue what I wanted to do. I was just in college and I was like, man, this is great, but this is all going to end one day. What do I do with myself? So I said, okay, man, I love student activities, so maybe I would continue to be a resident director. I did that for a little while in school, and I applied to this one school in Philadelphia, University of the Arts, and we did a phone interview, which I never did before. I guess this is before Zoom,
Yeah.
the ancient Zoom phone calls, right? Phone interviews, and they called me back a few days later and offered me the job and never saw my face or anything. And I was like, absolutely, I'll take it. It's a part-time job as a dorm director in the middle of Philadelphia, the place where my mom is from. I have lots of family there. So I was like, absolutely, I'll do it. Packed up my girlfriend's car at the time, drove down to Philadelphia, and changed my life.
Yeah.
Absolutely changed my life because there I started to find myself. I was around artists. I always knew I wanted to be art, some type of artist, something. And also my favorite band, The Roots
Mm.
from Philadelphia. And that's where you let me know when you want to start because I go
No,
on
I
and
love
on.
this. I love this.
Yeah,
I want to talk more about like then, yeah, how you found photography and everything. But I want to circle
yeah.
back real quick to thanks for sharing all of that and your brother and like I
Mm,
think that it's so easy for people to see someone that like has had a rough path and been in and out of prison and to like they lose their empathy and they but they see someone that's been out of prison, they're like, oh, that's just a criminal, and oh, another
right.
manslaughter charge, like there's no they almost don't view them as human, but to you, like he's your brother. You grew
Yeah.
up with him. Like that's someone you love. He's still a human that's capable of good and bad, just like all of us. And I think
Yes.
that, for me, I grew up in Arlington, like Fort Worth, Texas, and my dad was a cop. My brother was a cop.
Mm,
I didn't understand the privilege that I had as a kid.
mm,
I got into trouble too. Like I did so many stupid things. I was bullied, so I gave into so much peer pressure. I was arrested. I was pulled over more times than I could count. I ran from the cops. All this stuff, and I never once felt unsafe in any of it. I never uh, getting
right.
arrested, getting pulled over, running, like resisting, all of that stuff. And I never was like, oh, my life is in danger. It was more, I don't want to get in trouble by my dad whenever he finds out
Mm,
about this.
hmm.
And it took me a while to realize it was, I think, around when the George Floyd protests were happening. I remember watching the video and being like, I always, it was one of those things that like as a white male, I if someone asked me, it's like, oh, are you racist? It's like, oh no, of course not. I don't have a racist bone in my body, but I'm totally ignoring the implicit racism that I'm being taught my whole life,
Mm-hmm.
and the privilege, completely ignoring or not acknowledging the privilege that I had. And I remember watching that and being like, I've been in situations where I've been put in cuffs where I've, like, when I was arrested, the cop, I have cerebral palsy and scoliosis, which I'm great, I think has helped me, um, helped in my journey to like being able to have empathy and compassion with other communities that I may not experience what they're experiencing with the Black community, the gay community, whatever it is, because it's like I've gotten a taste of certain discriminations because of my disability,
Mm.
and I think it's opened up a certain window for me that I'm really grateful for. Um, but while I was being arrested, it was for drinking and driving as a 18-year-old, and the
Right.
cop
Yeah.
he saw I limped a little bit, and he put me in cuffs behind my back, and he noticed I kind of winced because I'm not very flexible. I don't have a lot of I have metal rods everywhere, and he was
Mm.
like, "Oh, I'm sorry. Do you want me to put the cuffs in the front for you?" And I was like, "Yeah, that would be great." And he took them off and put my hands in the front, and was super like cool about it. So in my mind, growing up, it was kind of like, oh yeah, you just don't resist, and like you're fine. Like you just
Right.
listen to what they're saying. And then after George Floyd, it was like, and also I grew up in conservative, Bible Belt, Texas, so it was like
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of my echo chamber. And then after George Floyd, I remember watching and kind of being like, that is insane. And then seeing like it was just tragic to watch that. Then I went back and remember I looked up any like police brutality case I could find. And
Mm-hmm.
I watched it through this lens of like, okay, if I was in that exact situation, if I behaved exactly like that guy did, would I have been shot too? Would I have been, kneeled on? Would I have been killed? And every time I watch, I was like, I could have seen myself in so many of those situations, and it was really eye opening for me. Um,
Yes. Scary stuff. Mm.
and yeah, and so I just want to thank you for talking about your brother and sharing all of that, because it's something that I think more, especially my audience is mostly conservative Christian because I'm on a TV show about Jesus
Mm.
and the apostles. So it's like that's most of my fan base, and I really I try my best to like have conversations on this podcast that may get them out of their comfort zone or hold up a
Mm.
mirror a little bit, or
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
offer a new perspective. So I'm all about that. But I want to ask you, how did
Okay.
you get into like photography? And then um you obviously did a bunch of incredible work in like the rap and hip hop scene, but then over the years around George Floyd kind of transitioned also into doing, like covering these protests and doing more photojournalism.
Mm-hmm.
So what his how like kind of talk about that journey a little bit.
Well, the reason I got into hip hop, is when I talk about the roots in Philadelphia, is because of music. It's because of groups and bands like the Roots, and people like Questlove and Erica Badu and Slum Village, and Common. I you know part of the reason why I was so excited to live in Philly, because at the time, for me, it was the epicenter of all of the music that I love. The Soul Aquarians, it was centered there. Um, and I wanted to be around that. And I didn't necessarily know, what I was going to do. I don't make music. I don't write. I don't rap. I don't sing. But um, and I didn't know, like, the light bulb didn't quite go off yet for photography until I moved to New York.
I'm
Um,
I'm doing it now. Sorry. My wife forgot that I was doing a podcast.
oh,
Sorry. Go ahead.
hi.
She ran away.
Okay.
She saw I was
Yeah.
recording and ran.
Yeah. So when I moved to New York in 2022 after living in Philly for 1 year, and I went to a concert at SOB's right here in Manhattan, and it was a Common show, Common Sense,
Mm,
and I took two disposable cameras, and I was just super excited to be at this show, fanboying out. He was performing my favorite album, Electric Circus. Took a bunch of photos. of the show, got them developed at like Rite Aid or CVS at a 1 hour photo, looked at them, oh, these are great, and put them in a shoebox. And it didn't really dawn on me yet. It took about a month or two to hit me. But in between that time, I'm looking at all these magazines because again, I'm trying to find myself. I'm trying to find my footing in this big giant city that I knew absolutely no one, but I knew, who I wanted to associate myself with. So I'm looking at Complex magazine, I'm looking at Rolling Stone, I'm looking at, Billboard, and I'm seeing all these amazing musicians. And then also what I'm not realizing is that the photos that I took at the show, I think personally they're just as good as some of these other images that I'm seeing in the magazine. So I showed people pictures online actually, put them
Okay.
on MySpace, and then it dawned on me that this is what I wanted to do. So I went and bought a digital camera. But I told myself after looking at photos in Complex magazine that the beautiful photos throughout the magazine, but in the back they had photos of events. And I told myself that not only do I want to take photos in the magazine, I want to be one of the people that you know are being featured in the back of the magazine as like, oh, look at this, these cool people were at this event. I wanted to be the photographer of the scene. Like I wanted to show up to the party or event or whatever it was because that's how I got started in music. And people be like, oh yeah, Mel D Cole's here. Like, of course, let him in. And I'm not on the list. That was like my fantasy, and it wasn't a reality at first, but soon it became the reality. Like where I go, I could just show up. People are gonna let me in. They knew my face. They might not have knew my name, but I got in and I was able to do my thing. And I had a blog after a few years called villageslum.com where I published all of the photos from my nightlife excursions and concerts and art shows or whatever that I felt that was dope and hip and super cool of the time. And basically, yeah, that's how I got started.
Wow, that's so cool. I've always been really, really into photography. I just like of taking pictures whenever we're out and about. And but whenever I see work like yours, I'm just so blown away and envious.
Thank you.
I think that what you do is incredible. But how did that then? When did you kind of like shift to the protests and attending those, and what was from your perspective, because again, just like someone could look at your brother and have certain preconceived notions about him, someone
Mhm.
looks at the protests and depending on what their echo chamber is and where it is they're viewing it from, have all sorts of preconceived notions about what's going on at these protests, what the protests are about, what the people there
Right.
are trying to express. Um, and so for you, as someone that's on the ground at a lot of these, historic and tragic events often, what has been your experience and how did, you kind of shift into that whole world?
Well, I guess I know that it was a pretty seamless transition because I've always prided myself on being able to adapt my, abilities as a photographer to any situation that I'm interested in. I wanted to shoot music. I'll shoot music. I wanted to do lifestyle. I'll do it. I wanted to do events. Okay, cool. There's money in that. Brand work, cool. I'm down. I'm doing it, man. And not that I'm just doing it. I loved it. I love it. And along the way, coming home from concerts and going to spaces, there's so many opportunities to document.
Mm,
So I would document the street. Oh, I become a street photographer. Walking home, I'm documenting. Oh, that's street photography. Cool, check. And when George Floyd was brutally murdered, I told myself, even before that, that if something like what I was seeing from protests from, down in Baltimore and, and other places where, these tragedies were happening, I was going to apply myself and put my platform forth as, a place where I can showcase what's going on in my neck of the woods. So that's exactly what I did. there was protesting going on after, and I said, let's go. And initially, I thought it was going to be 1 or 2 days, and that turned into a year and a half of work and dedication, and just being out there and sacrificing myself and my family at the time. We're dealing with COVID, and we didn't know what's going on. So
Right.
it was a lot of just hard work, and a lot of that stuff, I wasn't getting paid, to do any of that stuff. I was just doing it. And then slowly, my I guess not even that slowly, but my following on Instagram wanted to give me money instead of help me, so I could still go out and shoot, because as you know, like, everything work dried up, and as an actor, it was
Yeah.
just sitting like, what am I doing? Like, how am I supposed to support my family? Like, I don't even know what's going on. And but I never one of the things I never did, I was like, I'm not asking for anything. I can't do that. And I really didn't need anything. I was they were given unemployment and all that stuff, so I was able to, hold down. And but I gave in, and I started to see other photographers, just talk about the struggle and trying to get work and all this stuff, and that were actually, doing photojournalism long before me. And I said, you know what, guys, all right, cool. Send me the money, and what we're gonna do is I'm gonna pick about 5 photographers, and we're gonna buy them lunch. I initially asked for, like, I don't know, something low, like maybe like it was like $5,000, and I was gonna divvy it
Yeah.
up between like 20 photographers, something like that. And I just remember I got the $5,000 in like 10 minutes or something.
Wow.
And my ex-wife, she's my wife at the time, was like, "I think you're setting your bar too low. You need to just up it." So I upped it to 20,000 and got that in less than like 6 hours. And I just capped it at that and found a bunch of photographers that I love, that were people of color, black photographers that were out on the front lines doing the same thing that I was doing. And I gave them money, said, listen, I don't care what you spend it on. You don't have to show me receipts, but just go, whatever you want. If you need to clean your equipment, you need to get a drink, you need to get dinner while you're out, whatever you need, here you go. This is for you. And this is from these people, because, they love me. I love you. Spread love. And
Yeah.
I don't know how I got to talking about this, but
I love that. I think that's
but yeah,
awesome. I was even gonna
and that's what I
ask,
did.
like, because you talk about being at these, at all these different protests and rallies, and oftentimes, there are some dangerous situations that I'm sure you've found yourself in.
Hmm.
But there's also, like, and that's, obviously what is highlighted in the media. But there's also a lot of beauty that comes out of these things too, and connections, and I think it's that Mr. Rogers quote, "Look for the helpers," and I
Mm,
think that it's awesome that you are one of those helpers. I think that's beautiful. Um,
yeah,
but I,
it felt so, sorry to cut you off, but it felt so good
yeah,
to help. To help, like, to be able to help, because I always want to help, but I'm not always able to help out, everyone in the world, but I feel like through my photography, especially when I started the journey, of being a documentarian, of the streets of the world, of doing more important music is my life, and I wouldn't be a photographer if it wasn't for music, but doing this other work has opened my eyes up to, like, there's it's just way more important. And my gift as a photographer is to focus, mostly, you know on these issues, that necessarily don't make me a ton of money. I still do the commercial work. I'm still open for business for that, but I also really, really, really love being put in these wicked predicaments of talking to people that I necessarily probably wouldn't talk to if I wasn't a photographer. It's
yeah.
danger. It intrigues me, and just, my curiosity to see the world through, and to document the world.
Yeah. I'm curious, do you have any stories attending any of these protests like that? You know, you said talking to people you may not, have a chance to talk to if you weren't a photographer, or, dangerous predicaments. Like, what are some of the specific stories that kind of stand out to you throughout this whole journey?
Well, I mean, the main story, the main predicament is I was at the Capitol building on January 6th,
Yeah.
and I was surrounded, and I surrounded myself because I chose to be there by thousands of people that necessarily don't think the same way that I think politically
Yeah.
or morally, and so on and so forth. Um, so yeah, that was an interesting day in this situation, and um, it was one that, how can I say, like, I'm so happy that I was there because my life was forever changed. My career, changed. I got placed in a bunch of different, publications that I only dreamed of being in. But that all took, so much hard work and dedication from all of the protesting and the Black Lives Matter stuff to get me there. Because during the Black Lives Matter movement, I started to get intrigued by what the other side was thinking. I would see
Mm,
these counter protesters protesting happening. I said, "Let me go talk to these people. What are they? Why are you here? What are you doing?" And it turned me into, being like this journalist, where it wasn't just, okay, I'm gonna sit and let things happen. No, you gotta go talk to people sometimes and see what exactly are they doing to provide context to it all, to try to give this well-rounded, representation of, the event. And that's what I tried my best to do. And that's what led me to the Capitol building. And I feel like, man, that was craziness, for me, and standing next to people saying that, I'll die for my country, and, I'm ready to die and kill the police. I saw, when they dragged down the police officer Michael Nome from, where he was trying to stop people from getting in. I was, only about, 15 feet, 20 feet away from this man, and where he's screaming, I have kids, I have daughters, and they're like, killing with his own gun, beating, trying to beat him up with his own baton and all this stuff. And I was able to capture these historic images of him, um, basically looking like, he was scared for his life, in which he
yeah.
was scared for his life. I'm sure if he was here, I mean, I'm pretty sure he said it before in interviews. It was madness, and I'm there. All I think about is like, man, all these people, all these white people want to turn on me, easily do it. So all I could just kept thinking is like, keep my head on a swivel, do the job. This is one of the most historic moments to me ever happen in your life. Don't be afraid and just do it. And that's what I did. And yeah, it's
That's
complete madness. But I'm happy that I was there to capture it, because if not me, then who?
Yeah, yeah. It's that whole situation, I'm sure, must have in so many ways been like the twilight zone, because it's kind of the Blue Lives Matter crowd that's
Right.
dragging these cops out, and the cops are the ones that are like helpless and begging for their lives, where and
Oh
then
man.
as a black man that's photographing the whole thing, that's grown up seeing the opposite of that, where it's the cop doing that to black men. It's such I can't imagine like the conflicting feelings and emotions you had watching all of that. um
Yeah, the juxtaposition of it is
yeah,
that, I've been arrested multiple times for small infractions,
sure,
weed, open container, talking to the cops in the way that they don't like. Oh, I don't like that. Let me put you in jail. You
yeah,
know what I mean? Like BS kind of stuff, all misdemeanors. I wouldn't say that uh, all of it would have been unavoidable if I would have just listened to the cops. So I could have just went home. Yeah, I could have. But, I could have not been drinking. I could have not had the weed. Yeah, but I did, you know. But I don't think you should go to jail for weed or having an
Agreed.
open container. It's a little ticket. Let me deal with that later. Why have to spend the night in jail? But besides the point, like being there, being at any protests, because most of the protesters, majority white people that were out protesting. There weren't many black people protesting at the protest. And I've seen it where, police roll up and they pepper spray, the crowd, but they're aiming at black people.
Mm.
Whereas whole sea of white people. I have photos of this. And uh, even during the protesting, I was arrested on the Brooklyn Bridge. Was it 2020 or yeah, 2020? I was arrested. It was a big fight, and the cops came. This is on the Brooklyn Bridge on the Manhattan side, and they started to converge and close in. So I'm just in the middle of this, and I'm listening. Like, which way do I go? What do I do? And then I'm just standing there, and the cop comes up to me in a white shirt. It says him too, and points at me, and I'm arrested. I got 3 cameras on me, and I'm just like, why? And he pointed to this white photographer and said, "You see her? She has a photo pass on, press pass. Where's yours?" And I said, "I don't have one. I don't have that." "Well, you're going to jail." And at that moment, I knew that was nothing that I could do. All I wanted to do is protect my gear and get it through the night and make sure they didn't take my memory cards. Because I've been arrested in Boston for taking photos about 20 years ago now, taking photos of a fight, and the cops were doing some crazy wild stuff. They took my camera, broke my camera, put me in jail with three of my friends. We spent the night in jail. Got my camera back. You know, it was missing memory cards. So I
Whoa.
have no proof of anything that happened. And I had to go back up to Boston like a month later to go to court. And shout out to Carmelu and the guys who helped arrange the lawyers and make that happen where we didn't have, nothing happened. But yeah, man, like, so at the Capitol building, I just kept thinking, like, when it's when the cops eventually come, the military, whoever, I just kept thinking that it could be me,
Yeah.
first that gets pepper sprayed or gets attacked or whatever. So it was always not in the back of my mind, the front of my mind when I'm out there, when I was there documenting. And as soon as it got dark, they started popping off these flares and it's super loud, or I don't even noise bombs. I don't even know what was going on, but I just started plotting my escape route, and how I can get out of here because I didn't want to get trampled on. I wanted to get home safe.
Yeah.
And if you watch, here's a plug, The Six. It's a movie about
So good.
my day. Oh, you watched it? Good.
Yeah.
Um, in that movie, you can see, like, I tell a story. I tell pretty much the same exact story, and I walk about 2 blocks, and it was like nothing happened. It was like nothing ever happened. It was the weirdest thing. I got in the car, got in the Uber, and the first thing I noticed that my driver was black. And I have on this military camel duck looking get up like I'm going hunting with the good old boys in Missouri somewhere hanging out, which wasn't on purpose. It was just my work jacket at the time. And I looked at him. I said, "Bruh, I am not one of them. I'm so happy that you are here." He's like, "Oh my goodness, I've been picking up these people all day long." He's like, "I don't want to miss out the money, but this has been a crazy experience for me." So we started to just talk about our days, and he pulled over, and we talked for about 10 minutes. And I was telling him what I was doing, and he couldn't believe that I was actually there. He thought I was crazy, and I was like, not crazy, bro, but I gotta go edit. But yeah, Capitol building. To
To be
answer your
fair, you
question,
might need a level of crazy to do some of the stuff that you do. So, I mean, it's
it's
important.
been a lot.
It's I think that's I mean, thank you for doing what you do because it really does make a difference. And one of the big things that made a difference for me in viewing all of basically racial matters as it pertains to the police and biases that we have was the 13th by Ava DuVernay on Netflix,
Mm,
the
mm.
documentary series she did. That was huge for me. But like seeing images from these protests as well, seeing fear in people's faces and the hate in like, you know, the people in Charlottesville, like all these different things, the counter protesters there, and like there's just so much that these so and then in your images from the Capitol, there's these images tell so much of the story, like seeing that the police officer is surrounded by other white people that
Yeah.
want to kill him, and they're like
Oh,
rabid, and then he like it's you'll never see a more terrified expression on someone's face. It's I mean, I'm you know all this, but
never.
it's harrowing, and it's something too that the double standard is frustrating. Like there's, you know, I think like you can look at that police officer and be like, that I feel for him. That's tragic that he went through that. That's terrifying. He's a human, a family man, a father, whatever. But you can do that and then also, you know, acknowledge that as a whole, there's still some really messed up double standards in the way, like the response to that versus the response to a protest that's mostly black participants.
Absolutely.
And
I mean,
it's,
if it was black people, we already know that it would have been
yeah,
police would have been already been ready to go. You know what I mean? They would have been
yeah,
waiting.
yeah,
But because it was them or whatever happened, there was no one.
right,
So it's a huge double standard, you
yeah,
know. And I think, I mean, in everyday life and politics and how it trickles down to just regular old people, there's double standards everywhere,
yeah,
and you look at I mean, just what was that yesterday? Biden, pardoned his own son,
right,
and people are looking at that's it's a privilege, right? It's like what the hell? Like
yeah,
that's crazy that he did that. But at the same time, you have Trump saying, "Oh, well, what about this? What about that?" He would have did the same exact thing.
yeah,
No, he wants to pardon everyone from January 6th that's in jail that
right.
did a crime. You know what I mean? Like all of them.
Yeah, wait
So
a few
that's
months.
that's what
Once
he's
that happens, no one's going to complain on that side about
no,
any of that. So yeah,
no.
yeah,
So it's like the president has that power. I personally don't think that a president should be able to pardon himself or a family member and all that
yeah,
stuff. But if I had that power, and don't get me wrong,
yeah,
my son does something crazy, of course,
yeah,
I'm going out of office. Fine, it's y'all voted me in. I could do this, so I'm gonna do it. That's just or
yeah,
change the rule. That's
yeah.
how I look at
Yeah. It's
it. Yeah.
well, even the another double standard, like me talking about being arrested as someone with cerebral palsy and the cop adjusting the handcuffs for me to make
Oh
me more
man, let me
comfortable.
tell you.
That
What?
I
I
just
forgot to
read
say something about that.
it's nuts. Well, I read it pissed me off so bad. It was I forgot where it was. It may have been in Texas. I don't know, but there was a fight. They showed the body cam footage of all of this. Thankfully, the young man survived, but there was a cop got called to 7-Eleven. There was some fight. There was this older white guy
Mhm.
there that said a group of people, he got in an argument with them and they all like beat him up and then ran off. So the cop didn't ask for a description of anyone that fought him. He didn't ask the race, height, gender, any of that. He just said, where'd they go? And he said they went around that way. So the
Mm.
cop left and drove around the corner and he saw 20 something year old black guy walking across a parking lot. And he immediately got out of the car and said, stop. And the guy started to point at his ears because he's deaf and has cerebral palsy. So he started pointing at his ears, trying to say, I can't hear you. He tackled him. The other cop showed up. They punched him in the face like 10 times and tased him 4 times. And afterwards, they in the ER in handcuffs. He's having to sign to a computer screen to the translator explaining what happened. And then the cop still charged him with I forgot what it was, but saying that he resisted and that the cop got
Right.
injured. And it wasn't until the body cam footage came out that the cop dropped the charges. But it's insane, like the double standard with all of that.
Right.
And I from your experience being at these protests, talking to the opposition, and I'm curious what they're like, how open they are with you. Like how what are they like when you approach them and ask them questions?
Extremely open.
Really? That's
Yeah.
so interesting. I mean, I guess there's boldness in the privilege where it's like they have the
Well, I I have a theory,
okay.
and my theory is this: it's like you have the balls, wherewithal, to be at this. What a lot of people are calling alt cult event, right? Like majority of people are calling these people crazy nutcases, calling them everything out of the book, right? And you're already there. So you've made this choice to be outside and to protest or be at this rally. I look at it as like, of course you're gonna want to talk to somebody. It's your opportunity to tell the world how you really feel about what's going on. Because everyone thinks you are crazy. So let me tell you why I'm not crazy. Why I believe Trump is the next, coming of whatever, Christ and all that stuff. And I also, for me, I approached it in a way where I'm not here to make you look crazy. I'm really here to be educated on why you are here and what you think about the current state of whatever it was that going on at that moment, Trump and whatever, whatever micro stuff.
Mm,
And I really approached it from an open heart. And it was, I never was on some gotcha, doing a posting an interview. Like, I've seen those things. And yeah, some of that stuff is funny, but
mm,
I only could take so much of that stuff. And
yeah,
I wanted to like really find out. And also I looked at it as, there were like I would say 90% of people were like, absolutely, what do you want to talk about? And they were like, the 5% of people no, but there was a 5% of people that were like, eh. And when I would tell that 5%, and I would ask, where are you from? Oh, I'm from but whatever, Mississippi. You have any black friends? No. Well, here's an opportunity to talk to somebody that you may never ever talk to in your entire life,
mm,
and we can have a conversation right now. And that's it. And I'm not here to, debate with you. I just want to ask you some stuff and learn.
yeah,
And that sometimes that's all it took. Boom. Oh, really? Yeah. And then they would ask questions about me. Are you here for this? No, I'm not. Who are you going to vote for? Not Trump. And that was cool. And
yeah,
we left, shook hands. Okay, cool. And that was it. And I took that same approach every single time, and it worked out where it was able to talk to some really interesting people, some people that I think that were off the rockers, some just people that really had, in their heart they felt, this was the right thing. And crazy to think, maybe they were right.
sure.
Maybe
Well,
they're right.
there's
I mean, their guy won this time, so.
well, I mean, and there's nuance in everything, and I think there's so much. Like I recently posted a picture on my Instagram story of back when Trump was running the first time, mocking the disabled reporter, and I
Horrible.
was like, for the life of me, I can't understand how that wasn't the end of it, and that's what I wrote on Instagram. And then I got like thousands of responses. The most common response was, "Oh, so you're okay with killing babies then?" And it's like one the like turning it all around. The whataboutism is on
Oh
another
my
level.
goodness.
But I was able to like I made a series of Instagram videos just trying to respond to like these messages
Hmm.
um, as lovingly as I could, and without demonizing that side, without telling people you're an asshole, you're a horrible person, like all this. How could you have voted for him? I disagree with everything Trump stands for.
Yeah,
I,
same.
I, yeah, and it's something that like never could vote for him. I don't understand how anyone could, including family members and people who I love.
I have. I'm pretty
And
sure I have family members and I have friends
yeah,
that I don't
friends.
get it, and I just hear a lot like people are just voting for the economy, and they thought that he was the better choice. But I'm like, but
Right.
what about all this other
Yeah.
stuff
How can you ignore it?
that all these other communities
Yeah.
that he wants to take away from the gay community, the
Yeah.
this community, that, and and your
It's
boy right here, your black ass friend, me.
yeah.
Hi.
Yeah. What's up?
So
Yeah.
and I don't stop being friends with these people.
Right.
I don't because I know that I feel like my friends and some of these people that voted for Trump love me, but
Mm.
I'm not going to not be friends with someone because of their political views.
Yeah.
I find friendship in all different types of people, and that doesn't mean that some of these friends I'm inviting them over for Thanksgiving or having
Yeah.
certain friends are for certain situations,
Yeah.
but
You may have a friend that's like a Trump supporter, but you both like love the Bills or something,
yeah,
and you're
yeah,
able to like talk about
yeah,
that. And
yeah,
it's
exactly. Maybe we don't talk about politics. We just talk about, I don't,
yeah.
but hypothetically, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's, yes,
It's
I would be fine with that. Because
right.
if you can't be fine with that, then how are we gonna ever, on a grander scale of bigger issues, get to a point of understanding and being able to move past certain things? We're just gonna be extremely divided over every single aspect of everything for the rest of eternity. And I don't. It sucks because I'm like in this middle ground of like, is that okay or is it not? Has
Right.
it always been like this or has it not? Where are we going? Where are we headed? What the hell is going on? Because is this thing fixable? Like, where are we gonna go? Because man, I feel like just to end my rant on
No, I
politics, I
love
just
this.
feel
I
like
love this.
I just feel like there's there's so much work that needs to be done. As Republicans have figured out how to really just say we are going to do what we want and we're going to win no
Mm.
matter what. I think Democrats have been playing by an old set of rules, and they need to, move the goalposts around a bit
Yeah.
and get some more players that are superstars to compete with these guys and women and theys and thems and whoever's to really win.
Mm.
And I don't know, Democrats might have to stop being so modest because Republicans are like, we don't care.
Yeah.
We're gonna change the rules. We're gonna say, you know what? Trans people, y'all can't use the bathroom. You
Yeah.
don't like it? Don't come to wherever we're doing this.
Yeah.
Get
Yeah.
out. Go up with the Yankees and y'all, and that's
Yeah.
what they're saying. And they're not hiding it.
And also every classroom gets a Bible and the 10 Commandments.
Yes.
And yeah.
They're
Yeah.
not hiding it. But
Yeah.
then you ask some of these people at some of these events and protests about certain situations about it, and they don't know. Some of these people have never read the Bible in their life. I haven't read it all the
Right.
way. But some of these people that are making the laws have not read it all, but they're translating it and making it into something that they think works for them.
Yeah.
And then it works for me, it works for my base. Oh, I got to have this power to continue on to be who I want to be.
Yeah. I mean, but I think that these like it's frustrating because so much of it is like so much higher than like what you or I can
Oh
really
my goodness,
make much
yes.
of a dent. But I think the conversations that we're able to have, because on like the whole going back to the whole "you're okay with killing babies" thing. Let's go like if you take a Democrat and a Republican and you sit them down to talk about it. Most people, unless you're a psychopath, agree we want to protect kids. We want to protect,
Yeah.
like we are most people are pro-life in the sense that we want people to have fulfilling lives. We want to protect kids. But in order to do that, and also if you want to cut down on abortions, you got to take care of single mothers. You got to have more options for
Yes.
childcare, healthcare, all that stuff.
Yes. Yes.
And
All of
it's
it.
like there's different ways we really, I think, agree on a lot more than we realize, but it's become
Hmm.
so like teams, like you have to root for your team
Yeah,
no matter
either
what.
on one way or the other. If you're in the
And
middle, something
yeah,
wrong with you. If you agree with the Republican or something wrong, I'm pretty sure if I sat down and really we discussed and I start looking at the issues of what some of the Republican stuff or what I'm like, oh yeah,
sure.
this one is
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
I could be moderate on that. Okay, cool. But there's some stuff I'm like, absolutely not.
yeah,
No, I'm not killing babies.
right.
I'm not. I'm not a baby killer guy. You know what I mean? But
Yeah,
I do agree with, you know, a woman's body should be able to do what the hell she wants to do with her
right.
body. That's it. The
Yeah.
government and men should have nothing to do with that. Nothing
Regardless of
at
how you
all.
feel about it.
And
Yeah,
how
yeah,
how many more babies the world got? How much more we got to? It's a lot of people in this world already that we can barely take care of. So
right.
y'all just want to have more people added in. And what about people that find out whatever something like? There's so much like things. It drives me crazy.
I
Like
know.
I don't even know what the condition is called, but it's their choice. Or the heart is on the outside, and this and
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
and
like an
all that kind of
ectopic
stuff. What if
pregnancy.
what I mean? Like, what is the kid?
There's
It's
it's
horrible
not a
for me.
black and
But
white thing.
to even think about, there's so much stuff. When does it end?
Yeah,
Or everything should. She got pregnant. She should have the baby. No, it
right.
shouldn't be so black and white.
Yeah. Yeah,
No. Anyway.
there's way more nuance that needs to be, utilized in that conversation. Same, people talk about, like, gun laws, like how the right kinda wants
uh,
0 gun laws
Guns.
and, like, everyone to have a
Yeah.
gun and, how gun sales go up after a mass shooting because people think the Democrats are gonna try to take the guns, like, all this stuff where no, it's not a matter of like, there are plenty of Democrats that are gun owners. There are plenty of, you
Oh
know,
yeah.
like,
Plenty.
it's something that, it's not just, if you believe this, you're on the right, if you believe this, you're on the left. No, let's come together. We agree kids should not be shot in school. We agree
Yes.
that,
No.
like, there shouldn't be cops should not, have I mean, I guess not everyone agrees on this one, but that cops should not have immunity. Um, things like that that are like, I think the majority of
No. They
people
shouldn't.
could
I agree with you.
probably be on
Yeah.
the same, plane. And yeah, so I'm an optimist, so I have hope that we can make some ground on some of these, but until serious changes
Yeah.
happen from the top,
Yeah.
I don't know.
The gun thing, they're gonna have to. They gotta. It's gonna have to be federal. Like some president is gonna have to really have some balls and
Yeah,
just say, it has to be the perfect situation. I guess with Senate and so on and so forth, where it's gonna have to just change it
yeah,
because I don't think like my deal with guns is this, right? I don't own a gun, but I would own a gun because you can own a gun, and I feel like everyone else has a gun, and if I lived in a certain place where I feel like I gotta protect myself with a gun, I would have a gun. I live in New York. Guns aren't necessary for me. I'm not hunting. I'm not shooting. I don't feel like somebody's gonna be creeping through my window. I know a lot of people watching this. I think it's super unsafe here, but I have an alarm system, and that's good enough for me. And I'll get a bat and protect myself that way.
yeah,
So in that instance, like, yeah, I don't think guns are necessary in all situations. Do I think that there should be stricter gun laws? Like in some states, you correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you can go and just buy the gun and then leave out, and then
yeah,
some like it's 24 hours or 48 hours, so you don't make rash decisions. Impromptu buys. I think that is ridiculous. I don't think that you should be able to go buy an AR-15 and all that kind of stuff. Like, why do you have to have the same gun as some of these other people? And I also think that why is it harder for me to get my driver's license than have a gun? Like,
yeah.
it's mind-boggling to me. And I've been to the NRA convention to bring it back to photography, and I went there uh, on my own, no assignment, and I was just I always wanted to go to this event and I went twice. Once my plane was delayed, so I didn't get to go in. It was too late. But in Indianapolis a few years ago, and the story just unraveled in front of me. It was kids and guns, and I couldn't believe the amount of kids that were playing playing with the guns. It was mind-boggling to me, and I actually have some prints of that stuff in here somewhere, and I was just like, "Whoa, this is the story." And at first, I was weirded out because I was like, "Huh, are these people gonna, let me take photos of their kids with guns?" Because I have a 6-year-old, I'm super protective of them.
Yeah, same.
And I get it, it's a kid, but I have to ask permission. Oh, mind if I take? Oh yeah, yeah, go ahead. And so I'm asking, why are you here? Well, where else would I be? They got to learn sometime. Yeah, kids 6 years old. If they don't learn now, where they gonna learn when they're 13? We live out so and so ranch, and we need this and this and that and protection. I live up here. I got 100 guns, and I teach my kids something. Like, mind blown. Here, my kid is at home, watching Bluey, and
Yeah.
but they're handing out patches with Bluey holding a rifle gun. So it was just such a uh, you know, I guess almost like an angelical experience of being in this place again, being one of the few black people there, and
Yeah.
then being surrounded by people who are just have such strong convictions in what they believe in. It's so like amazing. And I would suggest everybody, those of you listening, if you're conservative, go step out of your bubble. If you are liberal, go step
Yeah.
out of your bubble. Go talk to people that you necessarily may not talk to because you might learn a thing or two.
Yeah. Yeah. Go go
That's my rant over about that.
No, yes. Go to a pride parade. Go to Black Lives Matter out.
Yes.
Go get out there and just talk to people with the intention
Because if
of
you don't,
learning.
Because if you don't, you have no right to complain because
Yeah.
you don't know. All you're doing is just reading or looking at what people like me are showing you. You
Mhm.
can't just depend on people like me or the news or CNN or whatever it is to show you what's going on in the world, because the world is a place that you yourself can go see for yourself.
Exactly. Yes, and I also shout out Bluey, because I think that's the
Ah,
best
yes.
kid show ever made.
Number one streamed show, I think, in America and maybe the world right now. And
Yeah.
I kid you not about um, they were handing out these patches that were Bluey holding a gun
Wow.
with a military helmet on, and kids had them on there. There's these hats where you could put the patches on, a little Velcro situation, and that's what they were handing out to kids. And I forget, this a few years ago. I did a little research, and Bluey, they're using Bluey as some kind of, I don't know, but yeah, it was quite weird. And at
Wow.
that time, I really didn't understand. Like, I didn't know Bluey. My ex-wife was Australian, so my kid was watching Bluey, but not like that. And it wasn't until I got home I was like, "There's this thing, Bluey," and she was like, "Yeah, that's what he watches." And he's just been. I had to hide it because usually I'll hang out, put memorabilia up from places, but I had to hide it because I was like, I don't want my kid seeing this. This is
Associating that
crazy.
with the show. Yeah.
Oh, not right. It
Man.
was such a sweet, 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 sweet show that I
Yeah.
even like.
Yeah. I mean, no, as a parent, I've cried so many times watching Bluey. Um,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
teaches parents lessons just as much. I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but I want to ask you, one, what's next to
Dude,
you? What's next for you? Where can people find you? And then I have a final quick question that I end all of
okay.
my interviews with.
What's next for me? Yeah, literally, what's next for me? I'm going to see the Alvin Ailey exhibition at the Whitney at 2 o'clock, which
Oh,
is like
nice.
an hour and a half from now. Um, that, and besides work wise, I'm just keeping going, man. I'm doing plan on doing a lot more commercial stuff this year. A lot more soccer related work through my agency Charcoal Pitch FC, and more traveling. I didn't travel as much as I wanted to this year. The last big trip I had was to India. I went to India to document Holi.
Wow.
So next year, and maybe in the beginning of the year, I want to go over to document gorillas in the Congo and do a few stories surrounding that. And yes, where can you find me? Mel D across every social network there is known to man. I am there. I might not be present. I might not participate, but if you really want to, find me, it's Instagram at Mel D
Nice. Okay, so lastly, I since you're so gracious and willing to be vulnerable and talk about some difficult subjects, I like to end on a really positive note by asking all of my
Okay.
guests, what is the thing that you love most about yourself?
Hmm. Right now, I'm loving that I am going through, I guess, hardships in my life,
Mm,
and going back to being vulnerable, and um and it's not the most positive thing because life isn't always so positive. Um, but without hardships, I feel like it's for me personally I have a hard time accepting the things when things are going great because I could be pessimistic at times
mm,
and not very, the opposite. But right now, I'm going through transition in life where, with co-parenting, there's been changes, changes in different relationships, financially, I haven't had the greatest year as a
sure.
photographer as I want to. Um, but with that being said, I look to the future and say tomorrow is going to be even better than today. Today's great, but tomorrow is going to be even better. I'm happy to be alive. I'm happy to be healthy. I'm happy my son is healthy. I'm happy that, I still have the wherewithal to be happy, the self awareness to understand that I am still here. Things might be, there might be a struggle, and I also tell people, don't believe everything you see on social media, especially if it's coming from me. I'm not always talking about, the bad stuff or negative stuff that happens in my life. That stuff can be a facade. But when I do talks like this lately, I was mentoring a young photographer. Um, and he asked me, how do you make money? I was like, good question.
Yeah.
If you have any tips, let me know because I would like to hear what you have to say. Maybe you could give me some insight because my insight is that it's hard, it's a struggle, and it's not super easy. And there's a lot of competition. There's a lot people um, that I think that are great that are doing their thing out there in the photojournalism photography world. And shout out to them to keep me on my toes, but at the same time, you know, um, I just keep looking up and through it and gonna power through it. 2025 is gonna be amazing. And if it's not, guess what? We'll come back to this situation and we'll reconvene and I tell you like, hey, I'll keep it real, John. Shit,
Yeah.
it wasn't that good, bro. 2026.
Yeah.
But I guess you got to be optimistic. Just like you, when you want that role, right? You can't be like, I'm not gonna get this,
Yeah. Yeah.
but then it feels good when you get it.
Yeah.
And shout out to you. I've seen you in a couple things before,
Oh,
man.
thanks, man.
What was what did I see you in the Yellowstone joint? Was it 18 something or was it the
1883.
19 one? Yeah, I get
18. Yeah.
confused sometimes between the two, but between the two, they're kind of similar. But I want to ask you some questions.
Yeah.
How was that? How was that working on that show?
Man, it was pretty crazy. Like getting to be on that set, it was all practical. Like they built Wild
Hmm.
West towns. We're shooting out in the
Oh
middle of
wow.
mountains. We have, 60 covered wagons, shootouts, cowboys, Indians. Like it was all kind of like being a kid again and just like playing. And,
Hmm.
and, it was, working with,
How was it being on? How many days were you on set?
so I worked 68 days over the course
Oh
of
wow.
about 5.5 months on it. And
Uh huh.
I say like 6 words in the whole thing, but I worked a lot on it. And it was pretty incredible. I made some great friends, getting to work with Sam Elliott and Tim McGraw and
Yeah. Yeah.
really, really fun actors. But yeah, that was a blast. Exhausting. It was, pretty because like some of the days you have to get up at 3 in the morning to drive an hour and a half to set, and then
Hmm.
once you get there, you take a van up the side of a mountain another 30 minutes to go shoot, way out in the middle of nowhere, in Montana, or, the panhandle of Texas.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, it was fun. It was, again, it's, we're in the arts. It's a struggle. There's days where, thankfully, I'm on with The Chosen. We have 2 seasons left. We've done 5
Hmm.
so far. We start 6 in April, and it's nice having some security, and it's paying well. Like right now, it's offering some potential long term security, but then even
Hmm.
after the next 2 seasons are over, it's like that money runs out. So I got to find another way to like get some
That
going,
that part, that
and
right there.
yeah, you may get a great paycheck and you're like, "Oh, this
Yeah.
is amazing." And then, it's going to go somewhere. Like I've got 3 kids. Just that alone, like all have strep. I had to go to the doctor. Like, there's so many
Right.
unexpected things that pop up. But it's you know, just like with photography, if you love doing it, you got to do it.
It's you
Like,
got to do it. It's what you do,
yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
it's like for me, it's like I always think about what else am I going to do. It's going to work out and things are going to be great, and I have to continue to tell myself that I am great.
Yeah.
I'm wanted. I'm great, and the product is there, but it's just a matter of uh, saying sometimes, okay, it's okay to stop and press the reset button
Yeah.
on yourself and try something different, because whatever you might be trying this day, it might not be working. Whatever you tried for the last month is not working, but maybe try to something different, and that is the one that might take off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you look at sometimes, last thing, I look at a lot of brands, and off the top, I can't really think of the name of it, but there's been some brands, famous brands that started off as something else. I think LG might have started off as like makeup, the technology. I think they're Korean brand, and
Okay.
now they're super huge in technology or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think who started off making tractors, Lamborghini or whatever, some company like that. So for me, it's like they didn't say, I can't do this, I'm not going to do that. No, do everything. And that's how I feel about photography. I could do lifestyle, I could do this, I could do that, I could be a photojournalist, but, you know, and at the same time, I'm going to do this commercial work because I'm not afraid to, reinvent myself and hit the reset button and go do more and different.
Yeah. Well, I hope that we get to work together on something one day, whether it's like
Yeah.
on the
Where do you
activism.
live?
I live in Dallas,
Okay.
but it's whether it's on
Dallas.
like the
You don't like
activism
the
front.
Cowboys, do you?
Unfortunately,
All
I've
right, I gotta go.
yeah,
I
right.
gotta go.
I want to say though, I would love to work with you on something. We actually had Annie Leibovitz come
Oh.
take photos. She did our Last Supper
Mm. Mhm.
photo shoot, so it's
That's dope.
that was really cool. But also, I just wanted to say, you mentioned loving yourself and being able to see yourself in a positive light and be happy even in the midst of challenging things, or slower like seasons of your career,
Mhm.
and that's big, I think, because have you ever done like the Enneagram test? Do you know like which Enneagram
No,
member you are?
I
So
don't even know what that is.
it's
Anyway, I'll write that down.
Enneagram. Yeah, it's fascinating. I just started getting into it. There's 9 Enneagrams, and it's like different types of people. There's like the helper, the loyalist, the individualist, the achiever, all different
Mhm.
types of people. And you do this quiz, and then you may have to like try to find, a lot of them try to charge you at the end of it. So make sure it's a free quiz. But you do this quiz, and then it tells you the type of person you are, and it helps you kind of navigate, one, better understand yourself, but then understand how to communicate with people and the type of communication you need, the flaws that we have.
Mm.
Mine is the achiever. I also have a bit of the helper. I'm a people pleaser. I love helping people, but the achiever is like the domineering force in me. And
Mm.
there's there's a song. There's this guy that wrote a song for each of the 9 Enneagram types from that perspective, and he wrote one for the achiever. And there are lyrics about like, I'm, this trophy doesn't make me, I'm good enough with or without it. Um, like my failures, I'm going to put on full display with the asterisks that I'm still worthy of love. all this stuff that like I listened to it yesterday, and the more someone told me
Mhm.
about it, and I was like, oh, I'll check it out. And my middle was sitting next to me. Everyone else was asleep, and I just started like breaking down, like listening to this song. It like it
Oh,
hit me
wow.
like right in the gut. But yeah, I feel like you would, you seem like introspective, and like I feel like it's the type of thing that you would really
I'm
enjoy.
gonna check
So
it out as soon
do
as
it.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
check it out today.
let me know which Enneagram you are, and
I
yeah,
will.
we'll talk about it. Awesome, man. I'll let you know if I'm ever up in you're in where are
Yeah,
you at in New York right now?
New York, yeah.
Okay,
I'm in
cool.
Chelsea right now in my studio.
Cool. Okay, yeah, I'll let you know if I'm gonna try to get up there to visit some friends at some point. So
Oh, cool. Well,
I'll
let me
hit you
know.
up. Yeah, we'll do.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Talk to you later, man.
Talk to you later. Have a good one.
You
Bye.
too.